Hello everyone, I am Vedan Nayak. For this semester studio, we have worked in a group of 4 and Utkarsh Agrawal, Gurleen Kaur and Meet Gohil are my fellow groupmates. We are currently pursuing Masters in Construction Engineering and Management at CEPT University and we are currently in a first semester. This semester studio focuses on a construction project formulation and appraisal for which we have given different projects to study. For purpose of this presentation, we are taking you to a feasibility study of tall residential luxury apartments.
Let us start with a project brief. Back in 2020, Gujarat's Honorable Chief Minister Mr. Vijay Rupani has taken a landmark decision to boost the infrastructure in Gujarat and given approval for the construction of a building of more than 70 floors in a 5 megacity of a state. Based on that, this is the first ever tall building of Ahmedabad city. The type of project is the Greenfield project. It lies under the category of residential high-rise apartment with a total 87 number of units and 31 floor with 1 skip floor and 3 basements. The objective of the project is to develop the tallest residential building in Ahmedabad. The total site area was 4091 square meter with a total built up area of 41,658 square meters. Total height of the building is 133 meters. The estimated project cost is 200 crore and the land cost is approximately 70 crore. To understand external and internal element which affect the project in a negative or a positive way, let us go through the context analysis with a pastel tool. Starting with the political factor, political stability can have impact on project by influencing investment levels. And with the stable government, infrastructure development policies will also remain same. With the economic factor, interest rates have an indirect impact on a sale velocity. Economic growth is directly proportional to the GSDP, and with growth in GSDP, the income of people will increase, and it eventually increase the buying capacity of people. With socio-cultural factor, keeping eye on consumers' preference is important. The area need and demand is to be checked and all the trends of a market will be followed for generating good revenue out of it. Further, with the environmental factors such as air and noise pollution will be properly managed during construction as per the GPCB guidelines. Legal factors such as all the building codes and tall building guidelines has to be followed strictly.
Now going with a problem analysis. The problem analysis is emphasize the rising presence of skyscraper in urban setting as well as the specific problem they offer throughout study of structural integrity, safety and environmental impact. There are increase in the number of towers in area which is based on a demand for high-rise residential in the area. We considered a 750-meter area for analysis and we analyze a similar project. Will further be refer for more details information as per requirement of feasibility study. We consider a housing preference of a people from bungalows to apartment in also consider a 5 years duration. In microanalysis, we identify a people prefer to live in a high-rise floor due to the astonishing views people preferring a high-rise project. Analyze of and the analyze of macro and micro analysis, we finalize a one focal problem. The causes of that focal problem we consider in a problem tree that are a need for a vertical development, high-class residential area development, high-income group of people. There are more security, more amenities, and better living standards, and gentrification will increase 2x. And the effect and the focal and a finalized and we consider one focal problem is to understand of luxurious high-rise and a focal problem is undersupply of luxurious high-rise residential development project in Silach. An effect of that focal problem is increase in demand of higher floors, increase in resale value, huge investment. Interstate investor will come to develop a city and infrastructure development in Silach. And the problem analysis, we emphasize the increase in demand for luxurious residential spaces area under the supply of the same. And we consider a context analysis as a similar analysis. Consider we consider a similar context analysis provide a mixed use development, provide a residential development, and provide a commercial development in that particular area.
Demand analysis is the study and assessment of the local market conditions which would determine the current and the future demand for properties and also its value. The methodology followed was to first understand the real estate sector in India, followed by macro and micro analysis. Further, dependent and independent variables were identified based on which regression analysis has been carried out to predict the future demand. Since the project emphasizes only on catering the HIG sector, the bifurcation in the same has been considered, as per which luxury units have a unit area between 325 to 510 meter square and price range between 2 to 4 crores, and the ultra luxury units have a unit area between 510 to 930 meter square and price of more than 4 crores. As the first graph depicts, out of the top 8 cities in India, Ahmedabad has seen maximum year-on-year change in residential sales from the year 2020 to the year 2022, which is 41%. Also, the demand for properties over the price of 1 crore in the city of Ahmedabad has increased significantly post year 2020, reducing the demand supply gap in the year 2020 to the year 2022 from 18% to 8%. This is being depicted in the second graph. The demand drivers identified at both the macro and the micro level are as shown, out of which highlighted ones are the quantitative factors. It could be inferred that the state of Gujarat has seen an increase in purchasing capacity of people and is also investment friendly, and further Ahmedabad has seen the maximum residential sales in the state. The quantitative factors identified have been classified into dependent and independent variables. Carpet area prices, per capita income, and GSDP are the three independent variables, and total residential unit sales is the dependent variable. 8 years data from 2016 to 2023 was taken into consideration, and the data for the independent variables was further projected for 7 years using a arithmetic mean, geometric and incremental increase method, and the mean of them was taken. After the regression analysis, the increase in residential sales per year has been further predicted. The graphs for each variable x1, x2 and x3 with respect to the total residential sales have been shown. The R-square value of 0.94 and p-value of less than 0.05 has been achieved in all the three cases. From the analysis, it could be inferred that the sales velocity is directly proportional to all the independent variables x1, x2 and x3, and the predicted sales for the coming years is increasing significantly, which shows there is increase in demand for such projects in the future. Next up is the location analysis. The main aim of the location analysis is to identify the most promising site as per the scope of the project. The flow of the work goes from selection of zone to macro and then micro analysis, which leads to finalization of the site. The scope of the project is to develop the tallest residential building in the city of Ahmedabad. So, the identified site should be in the residential zone and must follow the tall building norms. As per the order development plan shown, we have three residential zones R1, R2 and R3. And for the tall building construction, the minimum site area requirement is 2500 meter square with a base FSI of minimum 1.2. This FSI limit of more than 1.2 is available only in the R1 and R2 zone. Also, the R1 zone is already densely populated, so adequately sized land parcel is not available. Hence, R2 zone is the most ideal zone for development. For the macro level analysis, three localities in the R2 residential zone were identified as highlighted in the image A, B and C. They were analyzed on the basis of physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, environmental factors, transport facility access, socio-cultural factors and various regulations. As shown in the graph, the total score for each one has been calculated. From the analysis, locality A has been shortlisted as it has the maximum score among the three. Similarly, for the micro-analysis, three sites in the locality A were shortlisted, Site 1, Site 2 and Site 3. They were analyzed based on site-specific conditions, their connectivity, nearby support services, nearby leisure activity spaces and the neighborhood, which is as shown in the graph. The site-specific conditions have the most weightage among all the factors as it includes parameters like site topography, plot size and shape, cost of land and the FSI permissibility there. The total score of site 2 came out to be maximum, hence it would be the most ideal site for the project.
For identifying individuals, groups or organizations that could impact the project directly or indirectly, and for managing them, this exercise of stakeholder management is conducted. For that, first we categorized different category of stakeholder, which are primary stakeholder, regulatory authorities, consultants, contractors, vendors and suppliers, utility services, and miscellaneous. In this category, we identify different stakeholders. Based on that, we come up with total 42 number of stakeholders. To know power, interest, and influence of all the stakeholders on our project and managing them, we develop matrix of power, interest, and power influence. For both the matrix, we assign power, interest, and influence on a scale of 1 to 10 to each of the stakeholders, and as per that, we plotted them on this matrix. Going with the power interest matrix, the client and the financial institution, which are P1 and P3, are to be managed closely because the client has all the powers and the maximum interest in the project, and funds are equally important to run such a project, so their power interest will also be high. The regulatory authorities have high power but low interest in the project, so we have to keep them satisfied. Some of the consultants and AMC have high power and interest in the project but less than the client, but still we have to manage them closely. Going with the power influence matrix, the regulatory authority face sudden change in their position from keep satisfied section to manage closely in second matrix due to their High influence in the project. The project risk management is the process of planning risk management strategies by identifying an analysis of a risks and planning response to control them. The aim objective is to increase the probability of occurrence of positive events and decrease the probability of occurrence of negative events. For this, the methodology we have followed is, first of all, we plan risk management strategies, identify the risks, risk analysis by quantitative and qualitative method, plan risk response based on it is threat or an opportunity, and finally we try to control the maximum risk. For the risk classification, we divided whole project into 4 different phases like inception phase, development phase, construction phase, and operation and maintenance phase. In that phase, we assign different categories from demand to commissioning and mark all the categories alphabetically from A to Q. In all that categories, we find total 75 number of different risks. From that 75, 38 risks are identified in development phase, which are highest among them. Based on 75 risks, we identify total 62 threats and 13 opportunities. For that, we develop threat and opportunity matrix based on probability and consequences of the threat and opportunity. Going with the threat matrix, the risk D3, which is land title related risk, and Q2, which is BU certificate related risk, have a rare and moderate probability of occurrence. But if that occur, they can affect the project severely, both in terms of cost and time. Most of the demand risks have a moderate probability of occurrence and consequences as the area demand for such kind of project. Going with the severity percentage of a threat, 4% are high, 19% are medium, 41% are low, and 36% are very low. Going with opportunity metrics, the risk D4 is the change in zoning regulation. It is not very likely to happen, but is an opportunity in the case of a high-rise building, as in our case with the change in permissible FSI, we have an increase in FSI limit. A3 is consumer preference. By studying the need of an area, such segments are preferable, so it is an opportunity for us. With the severity percentage of opportunity, we identify 9% of a high, 25% medium opportunity, and 66% low opportunity. For the risk response, if it is opportunity, we try to exploit and enhance them. If it is threat, we try to avoid, transfer or mitigate it, and share and accept can be used in both the types. Highest threat response is to mitigate, and which is 23. 12 threats is to be accepted, 14 is avoided, 10 is transferred, and 4 shared between stakeholders. With the example to the threat response, delay in sale could be one threat. We have to mitigate it by creating an appropriate marketing strategy. Threat of land title dispute can be avoided by a history check from the sub-register. Demand risk like market saturation is the one we have to accept and work as per trend. Risk of dust issue during construction can be transferred to a contractor and mitigated by sprinkling water. Going with the opportunity response, highest opportunity response is enhance, and which is 8. 1 is to sad and 4 will exploit. With the example to the opportunity response, buyers prefer such a segment in the area, so it is an opportunity and we try to enhance it by working according to their preference. Most of the risk owner identified is client, and which is 67.
The first component of the project baseline is the preparation of the work breakdown structure. The different levels of WBS are: first, the project level, which is the total work to be done; the sub-project level, which consists of 5 levels in this case, which are inception phase, design development phase, procurement phase, construction phase, and closeout or handover phase. The task level has a decomposition of phases into stages. Smaller packages of activities are the work packages, and the activity level is of the operation stage. The first phase is inception phase, which is the project initiation phase. The scope of the project is decided and its feasibility is checked, along with various preliminary baseline is prepared. Procurement is done by the client in our project. Appointment of consultants is the first step in the inception phase, but is placed under procurement phase, followed by the feasibility study, land finalization, project baseline preparation, and approvals needed at this phase are mentioned here. In the phase of design development, first is the appointment of designer, which is placed under the procurement phase. Next is the preparation of preliminary design, and after finalization of the same, execution drawing preparation is done, followed by getting the necessary approvals required for the execution of the project. The fourth stage is the construction phase. It is the actual implementation stage of the project life cycle. This phase marks the transformation of the design and preliminary work into actual building or infrastructure. Procurement of contractors, materials, and machineries are under the procurement phase, which is discussed further. First is the site setup and mobilization, followed by the construction of substructure and superstructure, which are further divided accordingly. Next is MEPF services that will be installed in the building, followed by the finishing stage and all other miscellaneous activities to be done during the construction, like installation of amenities. Approvals needed by the contractor are also mentioned here. In the procurement phase, the materials and equipments required are taken into possession. The closeout or handover stage consists of necessary approvals required post-construction, and the final handover is done, including maintenance handover. The process was to go from whole to part, that is, breaking the whole project into manageable parts. The work breakdown structure is done up to the package level, as our goal was to identify all the important aspects during the timeline of the project. WBS is an essential tool, as with this cost breakdown and financial feasibility cannot be done accurately. As the bifurcation of tasks increases our accuracy and decreases chances of error. Understanding site condition and specific tasks for this project was also identified, like height clearance approval from Airport Authority of India and various other luxury and high-end facilities provided. Cost breakdown structure. Here, as per the phases of development discussed in the work breakdown structure, the whole project has been divided into 5 major parts. The same phases have been further used to identify the total project cost. The first step of the methodology is the interaction with the consultants, and then the identification of market rates of each component is done. Further, the discussion with the client is done for the confirmation of the same, and the cost is assigned to all the work packages to determine the total cost of the project. We have considered a total contingency of 5%, and in the design development stage, further detailed cost breakdown as per the total number of hours and miscellaneous expenses was done for the architect, structural designer, and MEPF designer, along with the bifurcation of various costs associated with the approval from the municipal corporation. In the procurement stage, only the cost of the tower crane and material lift is considered, as they are in the client scope. The material cost is considered in the construction phase. The cost of the client's in-house team is also mentioned here. After the contingency, the total cost comes out to be 212 crore. Maximum cost in the inception phase is for land finalization. Approvals and feasibility study contain less than 1% of the total cost of this phase. The maximum cost in the design development phase is the consultant fee, which is inclusive of all the preliminary and execution drawing of each designer's fee, along with all the miscellaneous expenses, including site visits. The maximum cost in the construction phase is the cost of construction of the superstructure, followed by the cost of laying the MEPF system. The maximum cost in the closeout phase is the cost of approvals required to post the construction process of the building. Financial analysis is the process of evaluation of project performance and its ability to achieve sufficient income, credit, and cash flow to financially sustain the project over the long term and meet all debt obligations. The total cost calculated in the cost breakdown structure as per the WBS created could be bifurcated under phases of the project developed, which is as depicted in the figure. The per square feet rate for each apartment is considered the same as per the average and assumption taken for this analysis. Total cash inflow is from the sale of the residential unit itself. Total cash outflow is as per the cost breakdown structure, further divided into two halves for each year for further clarity, and hence all the expenses have been considered for the project. These are the different financial models with different sales that were considered broadly under three categories: 100% equity, WACC, and debt equity cases with WACC. Sale A is the actual sale of the project and it has a decreasing sale pattern. Sale B has an increasing sale pattern. Sale C has a constant sale pattern. And Sale D has a non-uniform sale pattern. These sales are considered for this analysis. First, we have considered the case of 100% equity and WACC of 12% if the project is completely funded by the investors or partners. Then the 70-30 ratio over the construction cost along with the WACC as mentioned here, as construction cost is more than 50% of the project cost. Loan of varying time periods is considered for all the sales to identify the most suitable model. The repayment schedule for each case was also calculated and an example of the same is mentioned here. Out of all the cases considered for the analysis, case A has the maximum IRR at the rate 10%, that is 21%, and the positive NPV at the rate 10% is 405 lakhs. Other models have lesser IRR, and the reason is the equity amount is considered negligible. It could be inferred from the above data that it would be the most profitable financial model for the developer.
Next up is the design brief. A design brief is a document outlining project objectives, specifications, constraints, and expectations to guide the design process effectively. It also takes into consideration various norms and guidelines to be followed for effective execution of the design. The main project governing guidelines is the tall building policy, which has been introduced as a part in the CGDCR 2017. It is applicable to all residential, commercial and mixed use projects with building height greater than 100 meters, building slenderness ratio greater than or equal to 9 and minimum base FSI of 1.2. The minimum criteria includes the width of the abutting road to be greater than 30 meters. If the height of the building is between 100 to 150 meters, then the site area is to be minimum 2500 meters square, and for the height more than 150 meters, it needs to be 3500 square meters. The frontage of the plot should be 50 meters if the road is on one side and 35 meters if the road is present on more than one side. The planning requirements have been divided into different parts based on the scope of the project. It would help in providing better understanding of the guidelines that are to be followed for each. For the architectural planning, the tall building norms, model building bylaws issued by the Ministry of Urban Development 2016, CGDCR 2017 have to be followed, and fixed unit size of 4 BHK is to be made. Structural planning has to be done as per the IS codes, and it has to withstand all the wind loads and the earthquake loads. For the MEPF planning, NBC 2016 guidelines are to be followed. All the infrastructure planning is to be done as per the CGDCR 2017. For the interior design, the planning has to be done as per the nature of occupants, age group of the residents, and their social and religious beliefs. Target value design is a construction project management technique that helps in delivering a given design within limitations of both design and associated costs. It has been done in two steps, design D1 and design D2. The area chosen for the TVD deliverable is the cafe and the deck area, which is a part of the common multipurpose area on the first floor of the building that is entirely being dedicated to the common amenities. For the design D1, the process followed is preparation of strategic brief by the client, then design brief and design drawings by the designer, which was further used by the BIM modeler to prepare 3D and calculate the quantity of materials being used, and at last the calculation of cost by the contractor. The floor layout plan of the area along with all the material specifications is as depicted in the image below. The section through the space showing the various building heights and the ceiling design is also given. The 3D views of the area design are as shown. On the basis of this, cost of D1 has been calculated, which has came out to be around 50 lakhs 3249 rupees. The target cost is set, which is 16% less than the achieved cost. For the design D2, the client, designer and the contractor work together with a collaborative approach to arrive at the final design and the target cost. The changes made in the design D1 are change in false ceiling design, false ceiling material, cafe flooring material, deck flooring material, and the type of partition glass used. The floor plan with the revised material specifications and the section with the revised ceiling design is as added. The 3D views of the design D2 are as shown on the bottom of the slide. The final cost achieved after all the changes is 40 lakh 73,359 rupees, which is 18% less than the cost of design D1. This has been achieved without compromising with the overall aesthetics of the space.
Major part of our studio is making the construction engineering and managing process more efficient. For this, various lean tools have been adopted, one of which is a choosing by advantage CBA. CBA is an important decision-making tool used in design to decide between different alternative options. It is an evaluation criteria based on marking the benefits of the potential alternatives available. For this, we adopted two design problems. First is the selection of the formwork and second is the selection of the exterior paint finish. For this presentation, I have put a selection of the formwork problem. The selection of the formwork would affect the speed of construction of the project, subsequently affecting the overall project duration, which is of utmost importance for a tall building project. Design process which we have adopted is the first strategic brief was given by the client, then the project brief will be given by a designer, contractor and facility operator. For this CBA analysis, we considered total three alternatives. First is the plywood formwork, second steel plate formwork, third aluminium formwork. For this, we derive must have and want to have factors. In must have factors, strength, cycle time for casting, durability, surface finishing, wastage of material, planning of a system usage, repetition cycle, availability of a material, and material weight is considered, in which repetition cycle is the most important factor.
For deriving importance of advantages of different alternatives, we have used all the must-have factors. For example, repetition cycle is one of the important factor. We have assigned attributes to each and every alternatives for it. As you can see, the attribute for a repetition cycle for a plywood formwork is 7, 30 for a steel plate, and repetition cycle for aluminium is 150. Based on that, we have given advantages to all the alternatives. And with that, we have come up with the importance of the each and every alternatives from 0 to 100. We can clearly show that the highest IOFA among all the alternatives is of aluminium formwork, which is 750. Based on that, going further with the cost comparison, we have calculated the cost with the initial investment, repetition cycle, and cost of repetition per cycle. With that, we can see that the initial investment for the aluminium formwork will be high, but the overall cost of the aluminium formwork is low because of its repetition cycle. The overall cost for a aluminium formwork is 1.08 crore. Based on that, we are come up with the cost versus IOFA graph, and we can clearly say that we can choose the aluminium formwork over the other two formworks.
Now further going with a bid process management and starting with a procurement strategy. The methodology of the procurement strategy is a SWOT analysis of the client, identification of the consultant, choosing the most suitable strategies, and bidding and evaluation. With a procurement strategy of the consultant. There are many consultant strategies: a single source selection, least cost based selection, quality and cost based selection, quality based selection, and fixed budget selection. And we finalize two strategies for consultant. One is single source selection and second is quality based selection. And the procurement strategy of the contractor, we consider a item rate contract and labor rate contract. For single source selection is used to avoid a competition to carry out a continuation of a previous work and carry out by the firm. And the quality based selection recommended on a complex project which is a highly specialized work need to the executed. And the procurement strategy of the contractor, the item rate contract is considered a total cost on basis of estimated quantities of the materials. And the contractor, in labor rate contract, the client procures the material and to be used, and a contractor provides the labor to execute the work. And the main aim of the exercise is to suggest the most suitable procurement method in different type of consultant and contractor involved the construction project. Different further going with a SWOT analysis, we identify a different type of consultant and contractor involved in construction process. It has been carried out by interviewing his requirement. In SWOT analysis, first is strength, and we consider a important factor is of the strength is a good company image in the market, well developed professional network in real estate sector, in-house project manager and a engineering team, financially stable and effective marketing strategies. And the weakness of the companies, it is a first project of the joint venture opportunity method for a consultant. It's normal limited set of consultant to select, and the problem due to a communication gaps between number of consultant involved and fluctuation in market. Opportunity is an increase in a demand of such residential space in the area, well connected via SG highway, help in expecting the client network, changes in FSI norms, and timely project completion which help to further building client's name. Analysis, increase in a competition in the area, longer time for approval, working with a new consultant and contractor might create dispute and risk of the cost overruns. Further going with a procurement of consultant. The procurement strategy of the consultant depending upon the scale, complexity and the cost budget of the project. In the real estate market, the strategy followed for the procurement of the consultant is informal, and the developer choose to shortlist a set of the consultant they have already worked with the earlier and relevant experience. And the WBS code 1.2.1, 1.1, 1.2.1.2 and similar, we consider a architect, designer, structural designer, MAPF designer, geotechnical consultant, legal consultant, and environment consultant. Architect, structure, and MAPF designer is select on a quality-based selection system. Geotechnical, legal, and environmental consultant is select in a single source selection system. And the benefit of the quality-based selection is priority to given a qualification, transparency in selection system, reduction in the risk of the selection wrong designer, development of the long-term relation, and high quality design options. The quality based selection procedure is a preparation of the instruction to bidder, preparation of the estimated cost of the project, preparation of the shortlist of the consultant, opening a financial proposal, opening of technical proposal, receipt of the proposal, detailed evaluation of the proposal by the consultant, and higher technical score firm is selected. And the last is a negotiation and the award of the contract. The benefit of the single source selection is a priority given a specialized in the field, time saving duration, the process. It reduces a risk delay in the selection. It helps to maintain ongoing relationships. It protects a confidentiality of the client, and it helps in provide a best service available. And the single source selection is a process based on his own experience, market research, and this need to identify justified a light of the project overall goals. Further going with a procurement of the contractor, consider a integrated tall real estate building where scope of the work is divided into two packages. First package is a civil work. This include a site office, basement and multi-story core and cell construction with brickwork. Type of the contract is item rate contract, and the reason for the selection is the cost control, competitive bidding, flexibility in payment, and better risk management. And the package 2 is finishing and installation. They include a plaster work, plumbing, electrical fitting, paint, flooring, fabrication, waterproofing, landscaping, parking, VRV system installation, lift installation, and STP installation, etc. included. The type of contract in package 2 is a labor rate contract. The reason of selection of labor rate contract is a clear definition of the scope, accurate record of the material, no additional hidden charges, a more productivity. In the work package 1 will be the item rate contract, wherein the bidder will have the POQ and to be require a quotes the rates against each item. First, the client have to benefit for having throughout the breakdown of each item under kind of the contract will ultimately aid a cost minimization. Since the cost of each item is selected at the contract awarded, there are no additional fees and for the client must have to pay the contractor. From the standpoint of client, even if the scope is clearly defined, the modification of the unfinished scope can be readily approved because the contractor will only compensate for the amount of work performed. And the work in this will also assist a client to keeping accurate record material used the caliber of the job. The content of the contract is the, con- the contents of the contract is schedule of payment, instruction to the bidders schedule, special condition of the contract, eligibility criteria and mode of the submission. Any eligibility criteria, annual turnover, past experience, similar work, bid capacity and key proposal will consider. The mode of the submission is technical and financial. The technical submission, there are envelope must labeled in a technical bid by the bidders. There are envelope containing the work plan and detailed methodology should be attached as they are required for the evaluation. All assigned staff members and resumes in a consistent should be submitted by the bidders. Provide the contract information for any three recently finished detail. In financial submission, the bidder must mark the envelope with the word financial bid. The bidder must ensure no item is omitted from the financial offer by providing his final price for each item. The contractor's quotation must be Indian rupees and is good for the duration of the agreement. In inference of the package 1 is SOP will be in percentage payment as per the percentage of the work done. ITB and SCC are as per the project need and need of a toll building, and the building schedule consists of the issue date of the tender, pre-bid conference, bid submission date and the bid opening date. Now further going with
Conclusions. Conclusion for context analysis. Navigating political and economic dynamics, embracing technology, and adhering to legal standard are pivotal for the success of a tall buildings. We tried to adapt all the factors that can affect our project like economic growth, tall building norms, major technologies and IS code in this exercise. By doing this, we got to know the major factor that can affect our project. It will eventually help us in problem analysis assignment. With the stakeholder management, we conducted a stakeholder analysis for our project and identify individuals, groups or organizations that could impact the project directly or indirectly. Using the metrics based on their power, interest and influence, we aim to manage stakeholder effectively. For our project, we identify 42 stakeholders and categorize them into total of 7 categories. Managing them properly would help in smooth commissioning of the project. With the risk management, we have identified a total of 16 categories and based on that we have identified total of 75 risks. Based on that, risk, threat and opportunity matrix is created. And also consequences and probability of threat and opportunity have been defined. Among all, some environmental and legal risks are the major risk. In choosing by advantage, comparing possibilities by assessing them according to several quantitative criteria can assist in optimizing cost and obtaining better material or designs. By choosing formwork as a problem to complete the project on time, we end up reducing cost and fast tracking the construction process. This lean concept helps us in achieving better material, reduce cost, and speed up the construction process in our project.
Coming up to the conclusions, demand analysis has helped in understanding the existing infrastructure and in forecasting future demand for such projects in the city of Ahmedabad. Location analysis has helped in selecting the most ideal location for the project in the city based on various parameters by preparing a matrix giving weightage to each. Design brief has served as a roadmap guiding consultants and stakeholders by outlining project goals, constraints, and the desired outcomes. Target value design is the use of lean methodology for design decision making in order to maximize client value and minimize wastage without compromising with the overall aesthetics. Thank you.
The work breakdown structure helped to identify the total scope of work by creating work packages. WBS is essential because it helps to understand the work breakdown of the project lifecycle. WBS helps us identify the different level and their relationship with other tasks, which is further used in scheduling. WBS justifies the hierarchy of the various tasks that should be considered throughout the lifespan of the project. The work breakdown structure was checked and discussed with the client, and the identification of various packages was also done at the same time. Cost breakdown. As per the work breakdown structure, the cost of each element is assigned with the justified cost, and the cost of the project was calculated. We have considered the contingency of 5% and the final project cost of around 212 crore. The construction phase consists of 53% of the total project cost, which is 112 crore. As this is a real estate project and the market does not prefer open bidding, that is why in the procurement phase, only procurement of tower crane and material lift is considered, which was on the client scope. The closeout place counts just for 0.14% of the project cost. Financial analysis. We created 5 financial models along with assumption of 4 kinds of sale patterns which can be possible. Loan is assumed on the construction cost only at a 70-30 ratio. 100% equity has the highest IRR of 21% as the project is self-funded in the actual scenario, making it an ideal case. WACC can be used as the discount rate to identify the minimum return the investor is looking forward, which is here considered as 12%. Actual data may vary as we have not considered income tax on each year, and the per square feet sales value is considered for each apartment.
Now, further going with the conclusion, the problem analysis. The problem analysis is important for such a real estate project to identify a major problems at an early stage. Problem identification by studying a similar project and interacting with the stakeholder. Bid process management. Methodology in a bid management is a methodical bidding process throughout the vendor evaluation and learn a various procurement method used to procuring a consultant and contractor and goods in a real estate project. In milestone schedule, it helps to identify the major goals and are supposed to be achieved, help to identify any delays in the overall project and how to over the work in a time.